So I was doing a little thinking when I was by myself, when I was going from YouTube. And I was asking myself, what world do I want to live in? What world do I want to live in if I were free? If I can create my own law, because that's what God ultimately wants from His children, to be sovereign, to be self-sufficient and sovereign with Him. So I said, I want us to have full free will, like to really kind of like survival of the fittest. So if you're a murderer, murder. If you're a rapist, rape. If you're a child offender, offend. If you're righteous, be righteous. Basically, all things that aren't supposed to make sense. If you're a homosexual, be homosexual. If you're heterosexual, be heterosexual. If you're polygamous, be polygamous. If you're polygynous, be polygynous. Eventually, things that are true will live through time. Things that aren't will cancel themselves out. So I honestly believe in my heart that there is an equation, because you can't be the almighty, all-knowing, and not create a equation for this world you created for humans and animals and all things other. You know, like you can't be all-knowing, the ultimate creator of creators, and have no game plan, and have no uh like rubric or like guideline and instruction for this. This can't be the Wild Wild West. There has to be some sort of order, and I thought about it and I said, okay, if you could choose, what would you do? You know what I'm saying? And because that's the first stage to freedom. You have to know in your mind and your imagination, what would you even want freedom to look like? You know? So for me personally, I would allow everyone to, and this is coming from a black male perspective, a melanated perspective. I would allow everyone to kind of like, you know what I'm saying, do their own thing. And eventually all the dumb ideas would cancel themselves out. And whoever had an idea that was logical would be like, kind of like a round table of like, okay, the thinkers, like, what are we going to do? So first of all, I would isolate, because we still live in the same world. I'm not making this an imaginary world. I'm saying, if God allowed us to have a free world, if we could create it, what would it look like? Personally, for myself, I would say that if you're homosexual, I would basically build. There's enough space on this planet, so I'll say like Florida. I would say all homosexuals, all transgenders, all all that would live in one location, because the only way things can actually work in unison is if you separate them to their own thing. I would say all blacks, or all indigenous to the Americas, they will live in one location. All Hispanics, one location. All Asians, I would separate, because you can only have autonomy of self when you are amongst your own. You can only know who you are when you're amongst your own. Integration is not good if you don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying? It'll destroy things, and that's what the devil wants: destruction, to kill, steal, and destroy. So ultimately, I would want us to all get back to God, but that's not reasonable or logical in the way the world is. So in this hypothetical free world, I would say whoever is pro this, come with me. Because That's the only way you can build a renewable world. People have to be agreeable to what's going on. In the world we live in, no one agrees on anything. Even when they say they do. No one agrees on anything. And I don't want to be amongst the people similar to the Greco-Roman Council, when they would just argue and argue and argue in the Congress to waste time. Never make a decision. That's not good. It's not good. So, as far as the children, I would say, teach children how to raise children as children. So basically, children should always be around children. So, because in that case, you won't have to teach a man how to be a father. You won't have to teach a woman how to be a mother if they already know the nature of that at a young age. It should be continuous. Everything that we naturally should know, I think, should be taught, like money, parenting, and not necessarily money. Understanding how to utilize whatever currency is. So, like, you just need to know how to not be frivolous with spending, whatever that means in that time. So let me start it off in baby steps. First, in this new world of melanated freedom, I would allow free for all to happen. Like I said, that's the only way to cancel things out. Never force upon things, with an unruly people. Don't do that, because they're gonna rebel. So I would say, women, if y'all, because there's apparently, like, women don't have rights, and they're fighting for, well, apparently the overall melanated woman doesn't have any rights, so she's fighting for a war that isn't even her own. So I would say, do what you please, because eventually what is right will be right and what is wrong will be wrong. So when you destroy yourself and fall to the ground, you'll have to pick yourself up, and only time can tell. So I would say, do whatever you want. If you want to be a polygynist, do that. If you want to be a hoe, do that. If you want to be a stripper, do that. If you want to, whatever you want to do it. Because time will be the indicator for destruction or for you to rise. There's only two options in this world. You either will rise or fall. So as far as the men, I would say, isolate yourself. Build yourself and focus on a purpose, because that's the only way to become something. Otherwise, you'll just live your life in pleasure, which isn't bad, but it can't go anywhere. There's only so many things on this earth: pleasure, pain, punishment, purification, purpose. I think that's it. Pleasure, pain, there's pleasure, there's pain, pleasure, punishment, pleasure, punishment, purification, purpose. Yeah, I think there's 4. There's pleasure, and there's punishment, and there's purpose, and there's purification. But they're on opposite sides, So, because if you have pleasure, you're ultimately gonna have punishment, because pleasure can't. It's not sustainable. You can't have pleasure forever. And punishment is just the world we live in, because we live in the devil's world, and that's what he does. Purpose is when you find something bigger to live for. And purification comes after or before purpose. Because once you find a purpose, the cleansing process will happen. It's inevitable. But I feel that we as a people, not just melanated people, but we as a people, need to be more honest about the world we want to live in. Because if you can't, close mouths don't get fed, as they say. So if you can't define specifically what life you want, even if it's not here yet, you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. You know, and it's a bit sad, but it's the truth. If you can't admit and be prideful about what you want, how is it going to be produced? It won't. So, that's that. And also, the biggest part of this is, I would say, to the melanated people, find your God. Because Jesus is white to white people. But Putin just said that Jesus was black. So the black version of that white thing exists. Just like I exist, and there's a white man that look white that exists. It doesn't mean that we're both not men. So Jesus existed in the black version. He just wasn't named Jesus. So if Jesus is black and God is Jesus' father, that means God must be what? Exactly. So you can't tell no one that, because we've been indoctrinated. But those that have an open mind understand what I'm saying. The only way to truly be free, you have to be free in the mind first. And if the white world says go to, like, for instance, there's a lady yesterday that said, Happy Easter. And I said, I don't celebrate, but thank you. And she just gave me the screw face, because she was mad that I didn't celebrate the white man's holiday because she was old. You know what I'm saying? She was old and black. She didn't understand it. How can you not celebrate the white man's Easter? That's blasphemous. What are you doing? And I was saying the same thing, but the opposite. How can you celebrate this? But I wasn't rude. I was just honest. So, with that, I guess this video is just to tell people to have an open mind. Whatever your wishes are, it doesn't mean that they can't happen, because they're in your mind. It does. We all have a world in our mind. It doesn't mean that it'll be accomplished or it'll be produced, but you have the right to think how you think, and it's not wrong. It's your thoughts. Just how LGBT became a thing, someone thought about that, and they worked on it and made it become something. Even if it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. They made it happen, and then people tagged along with it, and now it's a thing. So in this world, if we're truly going to be free, if the generation after us is going to be free, if the generation after that is going to be free, someone has to be able to think for themselves, especially a man, because it's God, man, woman, child, and women and children are combined. They say it in scripture: God, man, woman, and child. They specifically placed those two entities together. They ain't separated though, because they were saying they're the same thing. So God's burden is man, woman, and child. But man's burden is woman and child. So he has to step it up. She not going, even if she wants to do it, she's not going to do it correctly because she can't. She wasn't supposed to. Everything has its own structure and role and purpose. Once you understand that, you can move accordingly. Otherwise, we will fail. Otherwise, there's no point. We're just going to be suffering forever, And who wants that? You might as well kill everyone if you're going to suffer. But the thing about God is that He's not going to kill no one off. You're going to have to either kill yourself off or suffer through it, That's the whole point. Can you endure until it gets better? Can you endure the night until it gets sunny? The sun will rise. It's inevitable. It always happens. But why let the sun rise if you haven't structured what you want life to look like when the sun rises? Because the sun will expose everything. If it's dirty at nighttime, by the time the sun come up, you should know what you want the world to look like when it arises. You want the world to be clean again, if that's what you want, because all things will come to light. You know, but that's all I really want to talk about today. I wanted people just to open their mind and think freely, because I was thinking today, because I had saw a lady today at work with a cross on her arm, a tattoo, and I was thinking, the white man did so much work to make us forget who we were, because the cross isn't ours, it's theirs. And he took our God, he took our Savior that God gave us, and he gave us his religion. Like, if you're really a slave, why would you give me your religion? Why, if we're slaves, we're incompetent. If we're slaves, it's like having a dog, because they said that we were like animals. If you're a slave, how would you understand religion? In their logic was, I can purify you through mine. If we're slaves, how? You know what I'm saying? We're incapable of having understanding of what purification is. We're slaves. So what does give me your religion do for me if I don't understand it? If I'm a slave, that means it's a contradiction. That don't make no sense. But we fell for the okie doke though. For some of us did. And ultimately it's our time to be resurrected. It's our time to rectify our wrongdoings. Because we did do wrong. We didn't have to give away our God. We didn't have to denounce our own God. We didn't have to take the white man's book and see that as our own. But we did. And we lived through the curse, because that's part of the punishment. But it's cool. It's cool. But yeah, that's what I'll talk about today. I know it's all around the place, but I guess that's just how it's gonna come out today. So enjoy yourselves. We'll talk soon.